Hey everyone, welcome back to Dad Space. I have a great guest on with me today, and we're going to be talking about his book, but also we're going to learn a lot about creating an example for your family as a dad, and how do you pattern your life as a dad, and who do you follow, and who do you set as an example so that you know you're doing it right. And Mark's doing it right because he's helping great people on their path. Mark Craven is with me. Mark, welcome to Dad Space. Glad to have you here. How are you?
Dave, thank you. Thanks for bringing me on and giving me the opportunity to talk to you and your listeners. I'm excited to share a little bit of what I got going on.
Awesome. And for those watching on video, you're seeing the background, some great photos, and that shows a lot right there without you having to say a word, Mark, where your priorities are in life. So it's amazing. Tell us a little bit where you are first in the world and a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the States. Born and raised here, and then I lived in Los Angeles, California for a little while, and then came back. I missed it, I don't know. And when I came back is when I met my wife, and we had my little boy, Kai. So she has two older children to a previous marriage, Cole and Ada, and right now they're 14 and 11, and then Kai is going to be 3 in August. So he is he's my little best friend. So the moment that baby was in my arms, it was all over.
That's amazing.
Just game over, man. Game over.
Okay, so take me back to being in the hospital or holding your son for the first time. Talk about a little bit some of the feelings that you were feeling. Did you feel totally equipped, ready for this dad thing, or did you feel like you didn't know what you were doing? Take me there.
So leading up to it, yeah, totally terrified. I mean, I was out of my mind, scared. And I do share a lot of this in my book because I think it's important to, I think it's important to share your vulnerabilities because it shows people where you're at or where you were at and that you overcame it and came, out on the other side where there's just what I experienced that day when I held that little baby, that little 6 pound, 6 ounce Kai in my arms. Just a love that I can write 1,000 books and it's not going to even hope to capture the love that I feel for that little boy. It's almost like your heart wakes up, or just this huge part of your heart wakes up and you're hit with a bolt of lightning. It's instant. It's natural. It's as natural as breathing. And it really takes over all of you in a flash. It's so fast. And yeah, I was terrified. I mean, like I said, leading up and, I share things in the book that I'm, not proud of, shameful thinking that I had initially, right when I found out Erin was pregnant, and I didn't want her to go through with the pregnancy. I was that scared.
Really?
And yeah, like I'm sitting here writing a book called Dads Kiss Your Sons and coaching dads on being good dads and, speaking on podcasts, all this stuff about dads and TV shows. And that's where I started. I started so scared that I didn't even want her to go through with it. And if she did go through with it, I wanted to talk about adoption. Like that's how ill-equipped I thought I was. And, that's hard to admit because Kai's going to read that book someday. He's, going to maybe hear some of these shows someday. And, I explain it, I think, pretty well in the book where, it was like these first couple weeks of just this manic fear that gripped me and took over. And I just, it was just this overwhelm of I can't do this. I've never seen it. I'm not equipped for this. Like this, this little baby needs somebody who knows what they're doing and it isn't me. And that's so shameful and hurtful to even say right now. But it was, I sat through that and I talked to my cousin, who's pretty much my mom, and I told her, we told her that we were going to have a baby and she just started crying. And it was like tears of joy. And I was like, oh, this is okay. Like, I'm not in trouble or, I don't know what my thought process was then, but I was totally engulfed in fear. And, she, with her reaction, it kind of like immediately washed all that stuff away. And then the next day we heard his heartbeat. So it was a viable pregnancy. They call it a viable pregnancy if there's a heartbeat. And I fell in love the moment I heard that heartbeat also.
Yeah.
And, one of the big lessons right there is I'm obviously just so glad I was able to open up about what I was feeling and the fear I was feeling and to the depth of fear that I was feeling to people and to somebody that showed me that it was okay. And then I sat through it long enough to come out on the other side of this love that's just like something you really, like I said, you can't put words to it. So yeah, what I always say to Kai, like what I wrote and what I say in that regard is it was never Kai that I didn't want. I didn't know Kai. It wasn't, you know, the baby, there wasn't even a heartbeat yet, let alone a name.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm so thankful, those I'm thankful for that because, I think a lot of men probably experience that, and especially new and expectant dads or first time dads, or maybe just dads that hadn't been a dad for a long time. Maybe they're scared, they just can't do it. And no one's having a thought like this. No one, no, I mean, maybe someone's scared, but they're not like thinking the worst possible thought. And it's like, nope, I was there,
Mm.
and now I have a
Wow.
best-selling book about being a dad. So it's like you're okay. You're okay. And I just want more of those men to sit through that discomfort long enough to come out on the other side and feel this ridiculous love that's waiting for them. Sorry,
So
kind of went on a little
no, that's
tangent there.
no, I love it. So what was the source of the fear then that crippled you in the beginning days when you found out you're going to have a baby? What was it about you or what you thought of yourself that sparked that fear?
Just complete inadequacy. I
Okay.
just didn't think I was adequate to be a dad. I didn't think I was equipped. I never seen it. I didn't have a dad growing up. Me and my mom had a horrible relationship. So I just didn't think it was something that I could do,
Mm.
and what I very quickly and easily learned was you didn't have to experience the love that you're now capable of giving. So, to be more specific, you didn't have to experience fatherly love to give the love of a father to your
Wow.
child. So, yeah, I mean, but that's where it stemmed, a pretty rough childhood. um like I said, with my mom and not having a dad, not having really any male role models. So I was once I found out, I was excited to be a dad after I heard his heartbeat, like I said, but then I found out he was going to be a boy, and then I started freaking out again, not to the degree that I was freaking out, but I was raised by like three women, so I didn't I'm not a sports guy. Like, don't let my shoulders fool you. I don't know anything about sports. Don't let the fact that I'm from Pittsburgh, everybody's like, oh, Steeler Nation. I
Mm.
don't know anything about it. It was so, I was like, I don't know, I'm gonna raise a boy now, but that was more of a playful fear, but I mean, true. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But um yeah, it all stemmed from that. Just that, like I said, a pretty rough childhood and not seeing anything of a healthy home. Um, until I moved in with my aunt at, like 15 when my mom moved to California, and then she passed away when I was 18. So
Wow.
I didn't really see um strong foundation, like strong familial, especially like immediate familial foundation. I wasn't familiar with it at
Yeah.
all.
So where do you start then building your toolbox of dad skills? Baby Kai's born and you're holding him and now you got to learn everything. Where do you start? How do you pull that all together?
Best advice that was given to me was, from a family member. They said, because again, even after I was over my manic fear of like this, I can't do this, and it was just a normal fear of like, well, how am I going to do it? How am I going to, what do you do? How do you dad? What is this?
Yeah.
And the best advice that was given to me was you learn on the job, and that was is so true. I mean, when he and that's the thing, is you do learn on the job. So when he was born, I wasn't like slinging diapers up until that point and knew how they
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah.
So I remember it was actually kind of funny. We're sitting, we were in the hospital room because Aaron had a C-section, so we were there for a few days, and the nurse came in and she she looked at me and she was like, I'm only going to show you this once. And she changed his diaper and I watched, and the rest is history. I learned right then and there, and been slinging them ever since.
There you
So
go.
you just pick it up on the job. My book, it's called Dads Kiss Your Sons, but it's not like this instruction manual on like, these are the kind of diapers you should get, and this is the kind of crib. Like, it's not, that's not what it is. That stuff all is that stuff is secondary. I mean, you just do those things because you love this little life so much, and you'll do anything to make sure they're fed and they're comforted and they're, clean and they're, healthy. Like, all that stuff is just collateral damage to the love that you know, immediately have for them. So not to say, and you know, it was funny also, you know, sitting in that room before that nurse came in, it kind of felt like I was on like a new job and I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of like hoping like a customer doesn't come in
Yeah.
because you don't really know
Yeah,
how to
don't ask
do
me any
anything.
questions. No, no, no. Yeah.
Yeah. And like he was like sleeping and I was just like watching him like, all right, just stay sleeping because I don't know what to
Yeah.
do if you wake up. You know? But again, that stuff all just, man, it's so natural. It just comes so naturally to be a loving father. There's no like, here's a book on how to do it. That's not what my book's about. You know, you
Yeah.
just, it hits you and it's beautiful.
So take us back to the hospital waiting room. Kai's not born yet. You have a few moments. You click play on a podcast with a title like Dads Kiss Your Sons, and you hear this guy named Mark talking. What would you have liked to have heard in the hospital that would have helped you in that moment? What kind of, because I'm just imagining somebody listening to us in that situation going, you know, I'm going to go down the hall now and become a dad in about 5-10 minutes. Before I head down the hall, Mark, what could you tell me what's going to happen?
Much of what I said right now, as far as you're going to be overwhelmed with the love instantly. I mean, it's going to hit you, and you can't prepare for it
Yeah.
because you can't explain it. You know, I mean, you could maybe prepare for a test because you know what's going to come on what's coming on the test and what to study for. But this, you know, and it's a beautiful, wonderful thing. It's not scary like a test. This is, you know, this is some love that as soon as you hold that baby, your whole heart is going to change. It's going to transform into something you didn't know existed, that you didn't know you were capable of feeling or experiencing. Um, so walk down that hall and, you know, get ready for the actual, literal best moment of your life, hands down. And what's going to follow it is the next best moment of your life, and then the next best moment, because every ounce of being with that baby and watching them grow and watching them learn and watching them just do funny things, and you know, it's just every day becomes the best day of your life the moment you become a dad.
And as you're talking, I can look off to your side behind you, and Kai's picture's on the wall behind you, and the biggest smile on
Mhm.
that little face. You know, I think it's like
Yeah.
95% smile on that face. I love it.
He
Think it,
his yeah, he's such a like loving little dude. I mean, he's gonna, like I said, he's gonna be 3 in August, but I hug him and I kiss him like relentlessly, and we all do, like
yeah.
the whole family, you know, we all just, that little boy has no choice. The kisses that he's smothered by, and he's never had a choice. But it's really so cool because now, you know, he's bigger. He's, you know, he's a toddler, and he's kind of huge. He's like half my size. He's over 3 feet tall, and um, he'll just randomly run up to me or his mom or his, you know, brother or sister or, you know, Nunny or Grandma Judy or someone, and he'll just hug them and kiss them. And he just like, now he like learned, you know, I think is like, oh, this is how you interact.
Yeah.
You know, like you hug and kiss these people that you like. And he even does it with some friends at school, you know, his little preschool. Like he's just a loving little boy. He's also really tough. I mean, he's, you know, I have to like watch, you know, I have to have eyes in the back of my head if I'm like laying on the couch and I see him climbing up on the arm, because I'm like, this dude's gonna drop an elbow on me or something. I know it's coming. Uh, but yeah, he'll do that, and then he'll immediately like kind of kiss me and laugh. But
Yeah.
his laugh, his smile is his whole face.
Yeah.
Like he just has the biggest smile. But he's awesome. So I
It's
could talk
amazing.
about him forever.
It's
Sorry.
amazing because when you smile, you look exactly like the photo of your son. So I love that.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, we do. We have the same smile. His mom has a pretty big smile too. So he had some good, he could pick from the gene pool. You know, he had
Nice.
some good options there.
So you talked a little bit about, you know, Kai eventually reading the book or hearing a show where you're talking about the book and talking about your relationship with him and your thoughts early days. What is your thoughts down the road for future Kai and as a more of an adult? What kind of conversations are you going to have with him about being a dad from your perspective?
You know, I want him to never be afraid to ask me about the scary things.
Hmm.
You know, I never want him to think it would be hard to have a hard conversation with me. You know, I want him to always be able to ask me something that, you know, it is uncomfortable or isn't, you know, I just want him to be so comfortable and secure in our relationship and in our love that we have for each other, that he can come to me with anything. And, it'll always be talked about and open. And, if he asks me about, those moments that I was really gripped in fear, I'll tell him exactly what's written, in the book. And, um, just kind of, ask him in a way to, kind of forgive me for not knowing my place those first couple weeks when I initially found out, Erin was pregnant. So, um, and just, be on and just be honest and, like, hey man, I'm human. Just because I'm your dad, doesn't mean I have all the answers, and it doesn't mean I never made mistakes. But I think the strength is being able to talk about them, So I would just like him to just be comfortable and secure in who he is and who we are together in our relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. The one thing I'm thinking too is, as for me as a parent, my dad was in my life my whole life, and he was a great example to me. We had a great friendship. Um,
I love that.
but
That's awesome.
but for me, there was things that he did that I would like to improve on,
Hmm.
right? So I wanted to like do a little bit better,
Yeah.
where maybe he did his best to a certain point, but he didn't go past that spot, and I
Hmm.
felt like I could do a little bit more
Oh yeah.
for you and Kai. Kai's looking at you. He's going to learn from you. He's going to follow your example. He's going to show love the way you're demonstrating love in your home. I love that, by the way. But there's going to be things that Kai's going to see in you and go, okay, dad did a great job, but I want to go a little bit more. How does that for you though, when you don't really have that measuring stick the way Kai has in relation to you? Do you find that you have to, you feel like you have to be perfect as a dad? Like you don't want to make any mistakes, or like, how do you kind of balance that out?
Not really, because I know it's just absolutely impossible
Right.
to be perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's more important to be vulnerable than perfect,
Okay.
So, just sharing, again, just sharing truth with him as best I can. Um, and I mean, I put my shortcomings in the spotlight all the time. I'm like, here's where I'm messed up. Here's where I have issues. I have trust issues and insecurities that I brought into adulthood, that I've been working on my whole life now. So, yeah, I'm very equipped. And the thing is like, I would hope and expect him to not have the same like struggles that I had, because he has a different foundation. He
Yeah.
has a foundation that I was able to help him start, and my foundation was self-started,
Yeah.
and with God.
Yeah.
So I'm obviously thankful to God for uh, giving me the strength and the mind to do what I needed to do to build on what I didn't know and what I didn't have. So, for him, I think he has a leg up in that regard, and I think he'll far surpass me. I hope he does. I pray that he does, just far surpass me in everything he does, whatever it is. Pro football player, nuclear physicist, I don't care. Just do everything better than I did.
And he'll play for Pittsburgh maybe someday, and you'll have to know more about
And then I'll
football
have to know more
because he's
about
on the
football.
field,
Exactly.
right?
And he
Yeah.
he is a super like athletic and agile little dude that just doesn't stop. So I have a feeling sports are going to be a big part of his life. So I don't know, eventually obviously be a big part of mine, which I'm good with. I'll be that dad wearing a football jersey with Kai's name on it and painting my face and doing all that stuff.
So on top of your relationship with Kai, you also have two other kids in the home as well that you've kind of all blended together as a family. Talk a little bit about inserting yourself into another home environment and that kind of dynamic, because that's another whole skill set that,
Yeah.
there's a lot of dads listening that are in that situation, and they're just looking for like, how do I be present and insert myself into this family and show love? How do I find my place? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I talk about this in the book too, because that was a challenge for me, especially when Kai was born. Like Kai was born in the middle of the pandemic, so I was first time dad, and he was born in August of 2020.
Wow.
So, I was like, I was like a Rottweiler, guarding that baby. I didn't want anybody to touch him. Like even his mom, at times I was like, "Did you wash your hands? Can I watch you wash your hands? Can I help you wash your hands?"
Yeah.
Like I was on another level of just overprotection. So, I admit, I fell short for sure in the stepdad arena. I really wasn't as warm as I could have been, as I should have been, or as open. Like I said, I own my stuff. I talk about the things where I fall short. But that's a challenge, for dads listening that find themselves in that position, and it's a lot of people. A lot of people come into blended families or have blended families and things like that. The good thing, even through my growing pains, because I was also single for a long time and I wasn't used to living with people. And Cole and Ada, they have a really good dad, Adam. Like he's, very present in their lives. And he and I have always had a really good relationship. And, they were older too when I came in. So I almost, not only did I take on that Rottweiler guard dog like mentality of how I was when Kai was born, but it also almost felt as if like, well, they don't really need me, you know,
Hmm.
because they have their mom and they're a little older and they have a great dad and they have, a good family. Like you kind of like, where's my place? But the thing that I did learn was just because they have a great dad doesn't mean they don't need a great stepdad too. Like, in fact, that's an added blessing if they can have that. So I recognized, where I was falling short there. And our relationship, me and Cole and Ada's, has grown, significantly, especially since like 2020. So it's something that you just have to work at, and you sort of find your place, but you're open, and you talk about, I talked to Cole even, really recently about that, about those shortcomings, about saying like, I wasn't the best and the warmest person to be around, especially at this time. I was just overwhelmed and stressed and scared. And I mean, as soon as they would walk in the house, it was like shoes off, take a shower, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like just scared, and it's not an excuse. It's just where I was at, but just being honest, being honest with yourself and being honest with your partner. And yeah, that's a challenge. I mean, it's a challenge to come in, especially when it's easier when they're little, I think. um if they're like babies, or even small toddlers, I think it's a little easier to come in a relationship. But when they're older, I mean, I met them when they were 6 and 9, so they were already like in rhythm of life.
Yeah.
Like, not that they're like adults at that point, but they're also not little tiny kids.
Yeah.
They're in school. They're, like I said, they're in their rhythm of life. They got their dad, they've got their mom, they've got the stuff worked out. They know what's going. They're very aware of what's happening around them. Who's this new guy? What's going on here? Are you going to live with us? And so there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack there. So I'm such a strong advocate of mental health, and I talk about mental health so much in the book. And I think I think everybody needs to be in therapy. Whether you think you need it or you don't, because the moment you think you need it, it's not that it's too late, but don't get it when you think you need it. Just get it
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
Just meet with somebody and talk. Especially when you're coming into like some big life changes. When you're coming into something like that, you're marrying somebody, maybe they have children or you have children, and you might be on the other end of it.
Yeah.
You might be the one who has the child and the other person doesn't. And that's a big thing for you to prepare for and to come into. So don't do it alone. Don't sit on your thoughts. Like, please don't sit on your thoughts. Find somebody to talk to, and even do like some family counseling, to make sure to just try to see the healthiest practices that you can do to have the boundaries that you need, to
Yeah.
even know what your boundaries are, to know what their boundaries are, to be able to discuss it and communicate it. That I think that's a good way to go forward. I wish I would have done that initially. I didn't,
Yeah.
but that's what I learned, is that I should have. So
And Mark, you do some of this as well. You help people through your website. They can reach out to you, and you can work with them in this type of way, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of my, of course, just like anything, you have to find a specific niche, and you want to market yourself in a way that is specific to people. So a lot of my coaching is really with self publishing and doing books,
Right,
but I do a lot of I do coaching with people that aren't just dads, and just because that's the thing too, is like you think, well, how do you coach a dad? Well, all the focus is going to be on how they can be a dad to their kid. And really, a lot of the focus is on how they can be a good person to themselves. Because if they're not fulfilled, if they're not doing work that's important to their heart and cultivating healthy mindsets for themselves and
right,
cultivating healthy lifestyles for themselves, if they're just miserable and hate life and hate all the work they do, it's hard to turn that off when you come home to your family. If your soul is drained every single day because you're going to a job that you hate, doing work that is completely out of line with your heart's calling, you're gonna have a hard time being the dad that you're capable of being and the dad that you want to be.
mm,
It's just so it starts with you. So it really is just essentially it's just life coaching. you know but the end product is you're going to just be a better person for the relationships in your life, the relationships that you find most important, which obviously would be with your children, your close family. But yeah, it starts with them. So yeah, I do help people, and especially, and yeah, I mean, more specific, like if people are coming into fatherhood, they're terrified of being a dad, or like
yeah,
you just need someone to talk to. So it's good to listen to these podcasts because we are talking to you, telling you you can do this, you can come into fatherhood and experience this crazy love and do all the things that you're being called to do as a dad. Telling you this right now, whoever you are,
yeah,
and you can read these books and you can do all these things, but sometimes you just need a little more. You just need someone to, so, you can't talk to the book. I mean, you can, but it's not going to respond to you,
right,
same with any other media. So sometimes you just need that one-on-one with somebody where it's like, hey man, it just feels good for me to open up and say that I'm scared and have you hear me say that.
yeah,
I might know what you're about to say. I read your book, I listened to you, I kind of know where the conversation will probably go, but damn, it feels good to just tell somebody who understands.
yeah. That's amazing, and I'm glad that we can do this on the podcast because, again, you just never know who's going to hear this and where they're at.
Yeah.
And I always try to imagine where are they listening right now. Like, are they
Right.
on their way down the hallway to see their son or daughter for the first time? Like, like what's happening today, and how did we find them, and how did they find us? So, I
Yeah.
love that. The other thing, on top of being a dad, is you're also learning how to be a great husband at the same time, right? And demonstrate that in this relationship.
Sure.
Any tips from your perspective on that path for you and what you've learned in as being a great husband?
Yeah, I actually have a chapter in the book called "Dads Kiss Your Baby Mamas,"
Nice.
and what that is. And when I first told my wife about that chapter, she was like, "Well, that's not really a good chapter because not everybody stays together." And I'm like, "No, but that's why I wrote it. Is to always show your children that you love and respect their mother, whether you're with them, separating from them, divorcing them, no matter how bad things get between you and their mom, you always have to try your best to see that mom, to see that person as they see them, and they see them as mom. That is a very different relationship than you'll ever have with your partner, your wife, or your spouse, or fiance or girlfriend. You'll never see them as your children see them,
Right.
and you have to do your best to try to shift your perspective in a way that you see them like that. That's going to change how you argue. You're going to do a little better. You're not going to do perfect. You're still going to say some stuff you regret, but you're going to find yourself wanting to do better. So inevitably you will do better because you're aware of what's going on. So yeah, um, just treating them with just love, and like, I know that sounds like really simple, but love and support.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Just again, always communicating, and um talking and, explaining where you're at, because that's a hard conversation to have also when you're, say your partner has children and, you things, it isn't this like fairy tale thing where you get together and you're this great big family and things work out great. So to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations with your partner and say things that, are just uncomfortable for you to say. It's so important. And this is another piece of, if you think you need counseling, it's not that it's too late, but you should have did it sooner. So I really think I'm just bring a therapist into it.
Yeah.
The two people are coming together. It's hard. It's not easy, but you can make it easier. if that makes any sense, by being aware of what's going on within you, sharing it, and again, working on things together. And a lot of times you need a third party to come in and explain some things too that are just unbiased, therapist.
Amazing. So if you're interested in the book, Mark is coming back to Living the Next Chapter. We're going to go deeper on the book. So I have links in the show notes to go over there and hear part 2 of our discussion. But the book is Dads Kiss Your Sons. And I love the book. I love the title. I love everything about it, Mark. You got it right there with you. There, of course. There you go. It's amazing. And there he is, Kai, right there.
Yeah. Kai on the cover.
Beautiful.
Me and Kai.
So head over to Living the Next Chapter if you want to hear more from Mark, and why would you not? This is amazing. Mark, tell us about the website and all that great information before we close off on Dad Space.
Yeah, and Dave, thank you so much for having me and let me talk to your listeners and just have this great conversation. This has been a lot of fun. Really, really awesome. But yeah, the website, you could just go to dadskissyoursons.com. There's the other domain that I own at successupahead.com, because that's what it initially was for coaching and things. But yeah, if you just go to dadskissyoursons.com, you'll see all the stuff on the book. You'll see, some of the media that I've been able to do. There's my coaching is available on there with all the available appointments, and there's a couple packages, and we could talk about that probably more in the next show that we do. But I keep my coaching affordable because I see people charging just crazy amounts of money, and it's just unrealistic for a lot of people. It's unrealistic for me to try to hire somebody that's like $10,000. I just don't. That's not where I'm. I'm not working from there. Even if I could afford to pay that, I don't think I would. So yeah, I like to keep things, in reach for people. And there's also blogs on there that people could read. My other books are on there. This is actually my 7th book that I've written. So yeah, it's a cool website. Stop by, connect with me on Instagram or Facebook. Instagram is where I try to tell people to go. So that's all on the website.
Good. Well, all links to everything in the show notes. Mark, thank you so much. And again, the smiling boy beside you there, that's amazing. Give our best to Kai and your wife. And thank you so much for making time for Dad Space.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to Dad Space today. Go check us out on all of our social media, YouTube, all that great stuff. You can find us as Dad Space Podcast. Real simple. Dad Space Podcast, whether on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube. Email us, dadspacepodcast@gmail.com. We're always looking for great guests to come on the podcast. If you have any feedback for us, let us know here at Dad Space. Looking forward to connecting with you on the next episode, right here of Dad Space. Follow us on your podcast app for more. Cheers. To you, Dad. Thank you.